everybody. My back's aching and my belt's too tight. Are you listening to your body today? Grab your coffee. It's time for Living with Favor. Favor stands for faith, abundance, vitality, overflow, and relationships. My guest today is going to tell us all about that. I'm Lisa Mosby, your host with Living with Favor. Thanks for tuning in and letting us share a bit of advice. This month we are digging into fitness, nutrition, and mind power all month long. And it's all about that V for vitality. V in favor stands for vitality. And that's what we're covering today. I want you to listen in as Elian Haan. She's a best-selling author, a best-selling award-winning author, TV show host, and national motivational speaker. Elian has spent most of her professional life in the fitness and wellness industry and is a F.A.V.O.R international life coach and master trainer with a yoga studio and private practice in Texas. So this lady knows what she's talking about, and she's going to help me dive deeper into listening to our body. We're going to give you some tips and tricks, and I want you to stay tuned to get all that you can out of today's session. She specializes in midlife and transformational coaching and mentoring as she supports her clients through existing challenges and obstacles that life has to offer. Today, we're focusing a little bit on women who are aging because we're seeing more and more of that as the baby boomers, want to start paying attention to their body and stay fit. So welcome, Elian. I'm so glad that you're here with me today.
Good morning, Lisa. I'm glad to be here with you, and I'm just totally waking up with all your energy and just throw it in there. Absolutely. Glad to be here. Thank you. Thank you for
My
your
pleasure.
introduction. Yes, yes, yes. It's early here in Texas, but we're up and about. Yeah.
We got the energy move. Hey, so speaking of which, that doesn't sound like a Texas accent to me. Let's start
Mhm.
there. How did you become a transplant in this country?
Well, that's a long story.
You
That's
can give me the
why.
short version.
Yeah,
I'm
and
sure
that's
people
why
are
I
curious. Where is
ultimately
she
wrote that
from?
book. Yeah, I ultimately wrote that book, right? To get done with everybody asking, what are you doing here? But indeed, it was in my mid-30s that I moved from Amsterdam to the United States. I followed a wonderful man who the next day didn't seem so wonderful at all. So I actually really ended up here immediately going through a divorce the day I got here because he was a cheater. So, life lessons learned, not immediately, but by now I should know what I got out of that. But yeah, I stayed in the United States. It was just a weird experience. I went through those days were the kind of days of trauma and a lot of things happening, difficult years for me, especially my 30s. And then in mid 30s, I came here, and yeah, just another weird experience, right? Being in a different country, but ultimately settled in Dallas. So Dallas, Texas. And yeah, it's hot, but I'm just working on that Texas accent, y'all, but I don't, it's just
I know.
not
I
working
get
really well.
I get that a lot. Where are you from? When I'm in Minnesota, I
Yeah.
pull in that Minnesota accent, but I've lived in, 5 or 6 different states now, and I try to like transplant, but I haven't lived internationally, so maybe I'll trade places with you and try that.
Yeah.
I was curious if you could share a little bit about your journey
Yeah.
in the fitness and wellness industry, how it's kind of
Sure.
shaped your understanding of listening to our bodies.
Yeah.
We'll start
Yeah.
there.
It
Yeah.
was just for me. I always said I can't do anything else. I just came out of the door as a dancer. I mean, really on my tippy toes when I was a girl. I always made an entrance with my arms up, and it was just I was the dancer. So at 4 years old, I was in ballet class. My mother did well keeping me there. I was going through pre-academy when I was 14, and ended up in a dance academy. And I wasn't good enough to be a classical ballerina as I was trained dancer on stage. So I taught a lot, and I smoothly started teaching. Went through university as well. Did some years of theater and arts, and just started working. And the thing was that around those days, which was the very early 90s, we had that whole thing with Jane Fonda and Richard Simmons. Oh, bless Richard. I love him. Just a whole movement, right? Of of
Yeah.
of moving and dancing. And we didn't really do that. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right and back. So I just got my friends and myself, we just ditched those ballet clothes and point shoes. And we wanted those sneakers and those ankle warmers and those high cut, really high cut things, and just dance through life. So I just rolled into that fitness business unbeknownst, teaching ballet and teaching fitness. And ultimately it just became a nice merge. And from there on, since I moved to the States in the mid-90s and stayed here, um, I just thought that's the thing that you can do all over the world. That's nice. I'll just stick with it. So I just added on personal training. I just added on all the moves that whatever came through the fitness industry, from step, of course, years of exciting, step classes and slide and whatnot. We all went through. So I did it all. Taibo legs, right? High
Yeah,
up in
yeah.
the air. So I did it all so I can really call myself, which I didn't understand for the longest time, that I could call myself a career professional, an expert. Yes,
For
yes,
sure.
absolutely. Because it's been 40 years. The last 10 years, I really have focused on more the smoother side, in a sense of better for me as well. I can't do it anymore. I'm at an age that I can teach yoga, I can teach Tai Chi, I can teach meditation. So it's a smoother form of exercise that I teach. I have several classes that are for active agers, as we call them. I do presentations as well nationally on active aging, and write programs for other teachers that can just take the ideas, right, and take them into their classes. So we start in the chair, we do a lot of balance, we do a lot of posture, because that's also, where I am at, right? We just have to keep moving. We just have to
Yeah.
keep moving, number
Yeah.
one. Yeah,
I noticed on your website that, you did, I don't know the quote off the top of my head, but I saw that you said, it's not a one size fits all approach, that you really believe in personally connecting with your clients and that it's an
absolutely.
individual experience. Yet there
Yes,
are some basic principles,
yeah,
basic pillars in fitness, like posture, like, a lot of the things that you just mentioned,
yeah,
those need to be there for everyone. And then we customize and personalize based on your ability and where you're at.
right.
So my question is what are the common signs that indicate that we're not truly listening to our bodies, especially in today's fast-paced world? I've been driving in a car. I told you I did 600 miles. My lower
Yes,
back and my hips are so tight.
yes.
I've been trying to do some stretching to do that. So I'm listening, but I think that you have a maybe deeper sense of listening to the body. So I'd love if you could kind of share a little bit of insight on that. What are those pillars that need to be there? And how do we start to listen deeper to our body?
We definitely need to incorporate movement anytime, right? So if you're driving a long time, then we know that those hips are in a crunch and just be sitting in the safest position all the time. So lower back, hamstrings, glutes, the whole body feels tight. What we don't do usually is offset, right? We don't go in a nice stretch when we're sitting so long. And the same, of course, because we are overall more sedentary. So we watch a lot more television. I sit a lot more than I used to because I have a coaching practice as well. Since the
Mm.
last 10 years, I started helping people just through talking to them. So I do a lot more sitting than just movement. But I know it's always the first thing. And how can we recognize that pain? There's two different things, right? We have to recognize it after, listen to our body after we do it. Just like you said, I have lower back pain because I sit a lot. So what can I do to alleviate that and to work through it? So that's really important, to recognize that and to just have something to diminish it, or to make it a little bit more, to make it a little easier, right? Less pain. And the second thing is that we have, well, there's three things. The second thing is that we have to listen deeper when it is related to something that settles in our body. And since I worked with patients a long time, people that were addicted to opioids and addicted to substance, they did that because they had so much pain. I helped
Mhm.
them in a natural way through that, as in a holistic way, as we call that, right? Also through that, so that you don't have to reach for medication, which we do too much to immediately get rid of it. Understandable, because it temporarily helps, but it's just kind of like a little band-aid, right? And so it just doesn't help forever. So we have to seek deeper to sometimes where our pain is coming from. So if we have grief, or if we have loss, or we experience severe trauma, that settles in our body as well. We call that somatic approach, somatic practice, right? So trauma kind of settles in your body, absolutely. And then in the third place, we just carry ourselves not that well. Posture is important, balance is important, of course, as we get older, but so is a little bit strength and cardio, right? We still have to do some lunges. So with that individual approach, indeed, I look at what people can do and where they're at, and then work with everybody. Right? That's why I always say two words, everybody, because it is an exercise, and yoga and stretching is approachable for everybody. But what we have done is created such a perfect picture of, the 22-year-old standing on her head and, who wants to? Ew, right? So we don't want to do that anymore. We just want to prevent the things that are coming that have to do with crazy moves, but we want to make it very approachable and very, I wouldn't say easy, but it's a challenge at all time. But we want to relate that when we get older to our daily activities of living. When are we going to pick things up? How are we grabbing stuff? How are we going to go to make something ready? And we work always with the right side. So that's my left side is maybe right hurting, or maybe I have an injury on the right and now on the left I'm overcompensating. So those things, when we start recognizing the basics there, then we can help ourselves as well, and usually through an easier approach than just saying, oh, I have to take a class every day, or I have to go to the gym 3 times a week. It's more about understanding and making sure. For me, that's why when you started that with everybody, for me, the approach is, if you know what you do and you do that with me for a while, or maybe for once or twice, and then you can do it at home, then you're a big step ahead of the rest of us.
Yeah.
That was a
You
long
know,
answer to a short question.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, that was a good answer. Yeah. But having a coach and having somebody to help you through that, sometimes we don't even recognize what's going on. I know you can look at somebody and say, oh, like the head is too far forward, the posture's out of alignment, the hips are not quite working, you're kind of waddling, you're not using, the feet the way that you can to push off and walk. All of those different pieces, the mechanics of our body can be causing that pain. And when we're taking a pill, we're not getting to the root cause of it. And I've heard, I know of two people right now who have come to me and talked to me about having surgeries. And I said, wow, have you reduced the inflammation? Well, I'm taking medicine for that. I was like, yeah, but have you used topical essential oils, or have you
There you
used some
go.
herbs that can reduce inflammation? Because once we reduce inflammation and we can get the muscles back to where they need to be and allow the structure to come into alignment, maybe with some chiropractic adjustment, there are many times where surgery may be put off, maybe at a future date. I'm not saying
Absolutely.
we can eliminate it if there's really structurally something wrong, but there's so many places to start rather than pop a pill or, pull out the knife.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah,
that's the beauty of what you do, is the mechanics of, and you can do it virtually, you can do it live. It doesn't matter. You can, when you can look at the body, you can see it from any perspective, whether it's on camera or live.
that's the wonderful thing. Of course, I'm most of my life I worked with people in person, and here comes COVID. So we started to go online. I started to use many online platforms where my classes are still available or on replay, and through my website you can find all that. But it's one of the things where you can see it when people come in. I can see it where they're holding their pain as well. And when I work with my clients, I can't, of course, immediately say, well, you need to do this and that with your body. But we're going to slowly go into, how do you carry yourself? So if people have a lot of anxiety, for instance, their shoulders are usually next to their ears, and they're complaining about upper back problems and shoulder and neck pain and being stiff in that area. And that's just where we settle a lot of that anxiety in the first place. And of course, that can go deeper to lower back or hip or intestinal problems. And you're also right, and I know that you do that as well, and I love that. Our first approach should be what I call well care, and not health care, in a sense that we promote it in this country, because well care is related to find out where I always say, find, feel, breathe, and heal. So find where your pain is, and then just feel it. It's in a sense of try to, really be able to point it out. Usually people don't even, they have a hard time telling me exactly where they feel it. It's around here, it's around there. So let's go a little deeper. And what is it, a muscle, or is it a joint? right? That kind of thing. And then so when we find and feel, then we can breathe to it, which has to do with meditation, which has to do with stretching, which has to do with an overall, a little bit of a deeper approach, but we call that at this moment, let's say, experience or breathe, and then heal, right? And then when we heal it, it's just because we have the ability in so many ways to heal naturally. And if we are going to the doctor immediately and we throw medication on it, and then that number one will have side effects. So now we're on med number two with side effects. So now we're on medication number three because of the side effects of number two. So it's going on and on and on. You mentioned inflammation. Absolutely. So absolutely aromatherapy, meditation, right? Chiropractor, physical therapy before you go to the doctor. So all these things I mentioned as well, all these things, exercise sometimes helps. We're afraid to get off the couch because it hurts. We have to do it and work through it,
Yeah.
right? Before we just kind of give up and just sit there. And it's just, I always say, you just have to get up and do it. Get off the couch and start doing something instead of taking something. So that's a big one for me that I used in the past a lot. One of my quotes, don't take something, go do something. Yeah. Yeah.
After a surgery, the first thing they do, they have you up within 24 hours and moving because you need to increase your circulation. You need to move your lymph fluid. You need to move your blood. You need to just move.
Yeah.
And we do that when we go to the hospital, but do we do that with ourselves day to day? Oftentimes, we choose things that hide the symptoms or they tamp down or stop the symptoms from presenting themselves. So we don't even know how to address it. We can't find the root cause because we put so many of these Band-Aids on. It's like, help, help, how do I cut through all of that stuff?
Exactly. Yeah.
And one of the pieces that you mentioned was somatic exercise. And that had come into my world a couple of years ago. I had a friend who had Lyme's disease and was actually in a wheelchair, and they were treating her for psoriatic arthritis. And I kept saying, this presents to me like Lyme's. And I've worked with some Lyme's patients as an herbalist and, studying herbal
Yeah.
medicine and foods. There's just behaviors and things that you start to pick up. Like with you, I'm sure when you see somebody just looking at their body, you're already clued in because you've done this so long. And same for me as an herbalist and like studying the face and the complexion and the skin and the tongue and all of those different things. I kept saying, and she said, I've been tested multiple times, multiple times, multiple times. Well, come to find out, there's so many different types of Lymes, but only 8 of them are discovered. And I think they're now saying that there's like 150 different types. And so I said, just do me a favor. There is a specialist in your area that works in Lymes. Go see that person, get on a Lyme protocol. And she did. And all of a sudden, pain started going away. And she went from a wheelchair to crutches to a cane to walking on tennis shoes to getting into high heels. Like it was a
Wow.
gradual progression. And
Wow.
this is
Yeah.
somebody who her life within that, on the path that she was kind of over. She couldn't do a whole lot. But the thing that actually gave her the ability to dance in high heels is somatic exercise. So that was a really long way of getting there, but I got there. Somatic exercise was able to go into that deep seated trauma, that
Yeah.
pain that she had been living in. Her gait, she kind of waddled. Her gait was messed up because she couldn't walk from sitting in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And that somatic exercise was able to free up and release a lot of the trauma in and around the hips and the legs and
Yes.
plus the cells on a cellular level, like living in pain all the time. You had to try to get past the emotion. Like that's going to hurt. I can't do it. Even though the pain was gone, there's still that emotional and mental component of
Yeah.
the pain being in the cells. You
Exactly.
mentioned somatic exercise. I've been dabbling in this arena, and I would love it if you could share more with the audience about how it's so beneficial and why it's changing people's lives.
When I worked with trauma patients, let's say women, they might have experienced tremendous physical trauma and abuse. And if that happens, then we can do a lot of talking, right? We just go through talk therapy first, and that's needed, right? To open up and share the experience, which might take years. You don't want to. But then sometimes we forget how that is still in there in our body. So somatic doesn't mean anything else than physical, right? The body. So it settles in there, and it usually very deep. For instance, with trauma, it settles very deep in the pubic area, for instance, right? With women in their bellies, you know, that nothing feels good. You don't want to be touched. You don't want to be loved by people. You just can't. And that experience, having that, might go for years because it's still related to a lot of shame that we can talk about, a lot of things that we don't want to let go, and the fact that we don't understand that that's why we hate to be touched. And when we go through it, sometimes years afterwards, we think that everything is good and we met somebody that we love, and we're in a relationship and everything is good, but some things are still triggering. Just maybe somebody else's touch or somebody coming from behind. It could be anything that triggers that still, and that we don't have that love with our body. Sometimes that comes out by just not loving your body, just not having a confident feeling about yourself, never liking what you wear, just, you know, you might not be at the right weight, you just don't carry yourself in a confident way. And so all these things, the self-esteem, confidence, all that has to do with it. And by loving your body, by doing exercises that learn and teach you how to love your body, it is a different, very different, open up approach than just talk about things. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? So there's exercise
Does, yeah.
you
Yeah.
can do to carry. In the first place, you can always carry yourself better, and we can all do that, right? So if
Mhm.
we don't carry ourselves well, posture related, that sometimes has to do with not just it's being cold or I'm feeling stressed out, but also I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Right? If people come in this way, it's a lot. There might be a lot of trauma there, being around people or being in big groups, or having to meet people even, or stepping into a new situation. So we're cramped up, the shoulders are forward, and we're going into that, you know, protect your body mode, right? You just don't
Mhm.
want to really be there. So one of the very first things that we could work on is just open up. I always say that's where it all is. So open your heart to the sky,
Mhm.
right? It's there. And if we look down, you're going down, I tell my clients. So just be up and open your heart to the sky and feel that, excuse me, you can relax your shoulders. And that's what I work on first. And I work on that for a long time, right? To be able to move your shoulders without having to take them when you grab something is already work, to isolate everything and to see it and to feel it as, yes, it's starting to release. And then sometimes when we get to create that love for our body, and that's confidence comes a little bit back, that self-esteem, that how do I carry myself, let's be a little taller, that helps just not with future posture related issues, a lot, of course, that just helps us in general, exercise and good carrying yourself the right way, but also it helps with all these mental and emotional blocks that we hold on to, right? That might be just having to do with a deep sense of not liking yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to go there. You know, in your experience, how have you seen ignoring the body's signals affect mental and emotional well-being for people?
Yeah, it's the other way around as well. So I call that sometimes put your sexy on, right? I have
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
the keynotes on that. And what does that mean? That sometimes we can start healing ourselves from the outside in. We forget that whole body part. I can, if I have a terrible morning, I can put some colorful shirts on and some earrings and put my lipstick on. I don't have to do much to look in the mirror and go, yes, yes, I can do it, and get these affirmations out by just putting on that crazy hat or carrying that wild blouse and purse with it, right? Or those high heels. So sometimes you can put your outside on just to carry yourself a little bit better and to feel a little bit better instantly, then go outside and the world will react to you and say, oh, you look great today. We don't take that serious enough. We just, you know, we do that to be nice, but really, I mean, if I carry myself well and I look fantastic, then this is my emotional and my mindset, and, you know, the whole bit behind it just kind of like goes back into that, okay, maybe it will be okay. So it's not that I'm instantly all right and stuff might happen. Everybody has that grief, pain, loss, trauma, just, you know, bad days. But it helps a little bit to do that for yourself, to get emotionally and mentally in a better mindset. It really helps.
I experienced that the last couple of weeks. I had mentioned to you before the show that my mom recently passed away, and you know, she was on hospice, and I had been taking care of her, you know, full time for probably 5.5, 6 months. Maybe it was a little longer than that. But but the last 2 weeks, I live in the virtual world. I teach virtual courses. Everything has been virtual. And so the last 2 weeks, I was on one of my executive training coaching calls that happens in the morning. And there was a gentleman on there and he's like, girl, what have you been doing? You're looking good. He's like, I don't mean that, in a bad
Yeah,
way. I don't mean to be
yeah,
sexist or anything, but you've changed. Your energy has changed. You're just showing
yeah,
up. Well, I was sleeping, after she passed, I was sleeping because I was just so hyper, like listening and aware. And, does she need me for anything? And
yeah,
just vigilant about it, that I hadn't realized how tired I was looking.
yeah,
I didn't look at myself in the mirror and do that and think anything about it. And then yesterday I was on the call again and somebody says to me, I don't mean this in a sexual way or anything like that, but you're showing up fine, girl.
yeah, yeah.
I
Ah,
was
that's
like,
great. Yes,
well,
yeah,
that was interesting, because
yeah,
in the virtual world, and I work with a lot of women, and so women don't necessarily do that, but this is an executive group, a business training
yeah,
entrepreneur group, so it's co-ed, men and women in there, and it was so fun to hear that because I was starting to feel better. I knew I was feeling better, but the outside world, exactly what you're saying, put the earrings on, go out there, put your sexy back on.
yeah,
The outside world was seeing and noticing that my vibrance, my vitality has been coming back because I'm getting some sleep. I have more energy to take care of myself. I've been focused on my eating and what it is that my body needs versus, somebody who's at the end of life and, let's eat ice cream. Let's, like comfort foods, things that you want to do. It was like, oh, yeah. And it was starting to show up in my energy and my vibrancy and my skin tone, probably all those things that those guys were noticing. And they may not have known what they were noticing, but they noticed that there was a change. And we can instigate that change. That's the
yes.
beauty of this. Our body is resilient and can bounce back if we help it a little bit.
There's two
How
things
do
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
go? No, go ahead. Feel free.
Just on that note, I just think that two things that women always forget. We forget what we already accomplished. We
Yeah.
forget to look back. And then secondly, we just go into that deep layer of shame that, yes, it's not good yet, and we're not okay yet. But we can't really talk about it, and we don't really want to talk about it, and we don't really want to ask for help and support. And I also think that on that, I just had all these thoughts. I also think that if women do it to women, I do it. I do it constantly. I go out and I make it one of my little goals of the day to go to the supermarket and to tell the lady behind the counter that she looks wonderful today, because it's a miracle what you can do for people. It is just, you never know where they're at. And then just saying something wonderful and nice, especially amongst women. I'm all about non-judgment and power and empowerment and building each other up. And if you do that, sometimes it just makes somebody's day and you just don't know what you can give somebody, right?
So did it. I mean, it's made my week. It's like, wow, okay. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
good. And it
yeah,
actually kind of inspires me to do more. Like, well, what have I been doing? And, to actually consciously think about what efforts I have been making. I know you do a lot of personal life coaching, and I want to bring this kind of into how do you integrate yoga and physical practices into that life coaching into we're not our mind and our body and our spirit, they're not separate, and
yeah.
so there's this integration that needs to happen. I know that I've also been able to go walking and get on the bike, and I golfed twice. I did kayaking this last week. So I'm outside and I'm moving my body. I'm not, I was moving my body before, changing and dressing and those kinds of things. But it's different when you're in nature. It's different when you're moving your body in that place of joy and excitement. So help me tie this together for folks. There is three: mind, body, and spirit. Sometimes we kind of isolate and we may focus intently on our body and physical fitness and going to the gym and all that stuff. And maybe we're not reading or maybe we're not meditating. Let's integrate this for folks and tie it all together.
So for me, it's all about creating habits with people. So it's long-term
Mhm.
planning, and then what are you, where you want to be in 5 years, right? Or maybe 1 year, 2 years, depending on the severity of what they're dealing with. And sometimes I work with execs a lot who are just in that work-life balance space where they're not doing enough for themselves. All of the above that you mentioned, they're not doing it at all. So we need to start implementing that. But so we're making shorter action plans, right? And every day, okay, do this and do that. Let's create new habits there. And that's one of the things that we don't do enough. We just don't have that discipline towards new habits. And it can start with really small steps. So how I just bring that in, especially when I work with people, which is another group that are more into depression, anxiety, stress, all that, especially women a lot, and especially in midlife, because we're coming to that part where the kids are gone or we're by ourselves. What do we do next? We don't have that super job. We're doing something else. So how do you treat that? Bringing in meditation in the morning, bringing in time for yourself, bringing in that self-care first thing in the morning, if that's absolutely not possible at the end of the day. Absolutely. And then I work with them. They're either working with me physically, or we're doing what do you say, that program. You have to do this twice a week. You have to do that 3 times a week. What do you like to do? Let's start walking. Let's start going to the gym. Find an accountability buddy to do it with always. Find somebody so that you have that drive to go out and do it, because it's not easy to tell somebody with severe depression to go, get up and walk, right? You can't do that. So you have to do that small steps at a time. But to combine that whole thing of where you're at, listening to music that helps you sleep, listening to a meditation maybe that helps you sleep, all these things will help. So yes, it's all part of the program. It's not just like, well, let's talk about it. That doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore. We have to be quiet and listen. People sometimes say, well, I'm not familiar with meditation yet. It's better nowadays, right? When I started meditation 15, 20 years ago, it was a lot of
It was too woo-woo.
oh, woo, woo, yeah. So definitely in the South, but that has changed. But it's still a thing. And I think when people start it, they think that they have to sit down, crisscross applesauce for an hour, and it's uncomfortable as can be, and nobody can hold that for an hour unless you're very well trained and practiced at it. It is not necessary. You just 5, 10 minutes. Use all these apps that you have on your phone. Start listening to somebody talking to you, and just for 5, 10 minutes when you're walking in the morning a little bit, or when you're listening, brushing your teeth. That kind of thing helps so much. It is not. We don't have to do so much for it. Smaller steps are easier to incorporate and create new habits with. And that's very important. I think a lot of things for us to be successful, that is that it depends on our drive to implement new habits and to constantly be very disciplined about it. And, those are two big words. And
I do
sometimes,
like a walking meditation, where you're out in
yeah,
nature.
yeah,
I went through a naturalist course a while back, and they do something called a sit spot. So every day it was, we weren't on site. We would go to the classes, but one of the exercises they had is, we want you to go outside and find a comfy chair. We don't care if it's in your yard or if it's at a local park, but go there every single day at the exact same time and just sit down. Sit
perfect.
down and then close your eyes and listen, and then open your eyes and see what you see. And every day, even after a month, like, the world is changing around you constantly. When you go to that same sit spot every day, you start to notice. So I'm not great at sitting. I do that all day long. So now I call it my walking spot, my walking meditation,
Yeah.
wherever I am in the world, because I've been traveling and living in Airbnbs for the last month. I go for a walk, and it's really a walking meditation. No phone. I don't even bring it with me because I don't want the temptation of pulling it
Yes.
out, listening to it,
Yes.
it beeping and distracting. But it's like, as I'm walking, focus, like, what am I hearing? I'm hearing the dog barking. I'm hearing the kids playing. Oh, look there's the mailman. What are the sounds that you're hearing? And then what am I seeing? Oh, look at the sun dapple, coming through those lights on the tree, the light coming, dappling through the trees, leaves, or, what are you seeing? Oh my gosh, there's so many bunnies. Yesterday I was walking, I think I saw 6 rabbits. It was crazy. I was like, what does this mean? All these rabbits showing up. I have rabbit energy right now. I'm excited. I'm bouncing around.
I love that. I love that. And I love the
But
sit
that's a form
spots.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
meditation. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can have a sit spot if you're not able to walk, just get outside of your house, get some fresh air, sit on the front
Whatever it
porch or the
is,
back
sometimes
porch.
people are a little bit intimidated, and I say, whatever it is, just go read the Bible, sit for 10 minutes, but make sure you do it away from the family, the dogs, the pets,
Yeah.
and that you just have some quiet time. Just
Yeah.
whatever it is that you have to create some quiet time to start the day with. When I walk, I listen to motivational speakers on YouTube, or, just whatever you do, just whatever drives you there, a little bit of music that makes you feel better. And I have several clients that are just in that, they worked 60, 70 hours a week, and now they're actually, even if they have to get up earlier, walking 3 times a week or just swimming 2 times a week, it is just that. It is
It
just a
revives
small
your
start
spirit.
to creating some new habits. The
Yeah.
things that I always know with my clients is I know what they don't want, but I know that they know what they do not know what they do want. Right? Does that make
Right.
sense?
They do not
Say
know
it
what they
again.
do want.
I
Yeah.
know what
They
you
do
don't
not know
want,
what they do want. Yep. They don't know
but
what they don't know. They don't know what
yes,
they want.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And that's the problem. It's creating that space to, okay, so you don't have a job anymore, you quit working, or now you're retired early, or you were sick for a long time, or you took care of somebody, you were the caretaker, like you said. It's exhausting. We forget how hard it is on the caretaker. It's something that we do with love, beyond doubt, but it
Absolutely.
takes so much out of us that we don't understand, because we think we have to do that because, yes, of course, we're the daughter, we're the spouse, we're the, the loved one. We are in that situation that we think that's normal, and we forget to take care of ourselves, because in this space we kind of lose it a little bit, and we underestimate ourselves and our power so much in that, and how much we give and how much it takes out of us. But in that sense, we kind of, like, again, don't see that and don't recognize that, and just have to create some new habits. And what wasn't working for you, I always say that, what's not working for you, what is not working for you, right? What do you want to change, where do you want to be? And sometimes we just don't know what the next step is. And that's when I come in and I said, let's create that together. It's always about creation. It's always about energy, being together, creating something that really, really lifts you up in the morning. Why do you want to get out of bed? You want to do this, you want to get out of bed, right? You just want to be yay about it. And if we don't have that feeling in the morning, then that takes all our respect and our self-worth and our discipline, and what are we living for? Why do we do this? It takes all that away. Just kind of have to have a little bit of that zest. And that is the most important thing for me to bring back to people.
Elian, I forgot already. It's feel, breathe, and heal. I'm missing one. I want to bring this back full circle from where we
Find,
started.
find, find,
Find,
feel,
feel,
breathe,
breathe,
and heal.
heal. Okay, folks, if you're like me and you forgot it already, write it down on a 3x5 card and use that, today, tomorrow, the next day, this week, next week. Just have it laying in the kitchen, have it laying in the bathroom, lay it on your desk. Find, feel, breathe, and heal. Pay
Heal.
attention. Like
Yes.
this is a
Yes.
simple, I don't know, a simple way to actually, simple exercise to help you become more aware of your body.
Yeah.
What are you experiencing? What are you feeling at the moment? I promised I wouldn't put you on the spot, but I take that back. I'm going to ask you, do you maybe have a transformational story of a client that you've worked with without using their name or giving away too much? Maybe a story, because I think we learn from stories. I shared that somatic story about my friend who went from the wheelchair to walking to dancing in high heels. Is there a transformational story that it kind of lands on your heart that you carry with you every day, and it's why you do what you do, that you could share?
There's many, many, many of
Yeah.
them, but I do remember, well, I do remember indeed, talking about the physical part of it, working with somebody who was highly addicted to opioids, and opioids might become the thing to go, right? So that happens a lot. And oops, oh, you lost me here. Hold on a second. Whoops. I was just trying to pick up some, there we are. Just trying to get rid of some cable here. Don't touch anything, Elian. But in that sense of, yeah, somebody that just gave up, had too much pain, the pain became unbearable, and we are just seeking for help immediately, and resolve that by that immediate gratification. When I started working with him, big, huge guy, right? Not into anything. I mean, had boots, the whole bit, just man. And I said, well, we just have to do this in a different way, because you're not used to this, and you're on the couch and calling the doctor. And I want to help you completely get rid of everything and be in recovery for the rest of your life with that physical pain as well. So we started addressing just hip and lower back problems and surgeries he had, but he didn't follow up with physical training, for instance. So I started just gentle with physical training, right? A lot of people just don't do that after pain, and then they get pain meds, but they don't follow up with their exercise part of it. So we started doing that, just started gentle moves. And there's so many movements that we can make for sciatic, lower back, hips, anything there. We can do so many things just ourselves. So I started slowly bringing that, which was not easy. Like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, right? Just bringing that to him, the sense of having a yoga stretch in your pockets, being able to do that anywhere, a couple of these stretches, that was the number one. And then the number two was just mindset. It's always about being persistent. It's always about finding that passion back, right? That in the first place, because you're depressed if you come through that and you're really heavily addicted, but to find that kind of zest back. So he found that in a sense of, yeah, I can do this by myself. So we started, just like you said, standing up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. One of the exercises that I frequently do with many, many people that said, I can't do that without hands. I can't push myself up out of my chair without hands. We started doing that. We started doing the gentle stretches. The pain faded. He got more aware of what he could do with his body, which eliminated some of that depressive thoughts and some of that I can't do it, right? So the perseverance through it, we definitely had to do it. Walking out of the door, new man, shoulders back. I mean, just bam, here I am world. Took a long time, right? It took a couple of months to get there and to make somebody believe that there's so much that we can do ourselves. When he walked out of the door, big guy, sports guy, very, in he has been an athlete and lost all that. So, especially when you're coming from that background, that was hard. But when he walked out of that door, absolutely, yes. With a mindset
And
of,
you
I
said
can do it.
you said it takes a long time, couple months, but how many months had he been sitting on the couch?
Yes,
Like in comparison to how long he had been stuck, a
yes.
couple months to be on the other side of pain and have your life back, have your hope, your zest, your vigor. Yeah, a couple months, that's nothing.
It's
You know,
nothing. Sometimes people say to me, but why do I have to work with you for a longer time than just a month or so? I said, well, you want lifetime results,
yeah.
right? I mean, what you invest right now will be a lifetime of results where you don't have to ask for help. You don't have to go into medical support. You don't have to go to the doctor constantly. You can do so many things yourself if you just get the basics, and definitely mentally and emotional as well, of course, right? As a coach, a lot of people just need to get through that. But it takes months to work yourself out of a fizz. It
Yeah.
takes a long time. I've been through it. Absolutely.
Oh
It
yeah.
took me 10, 15 years to do the work, right? And I'm
Yeah.
still working on it every day, still. Absolutely. It just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. But you recognize it, become aware of it. That's the first thing, right? Recognize it and become aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you
Well,
need to.
we've covered a lot of things, and I love the find, feel, breathe, and heal. If everybody didn't write that down, that's one way for us to implement this practice into our daily life to get integrated with our body. Is there one other thing or something else that before we wrap this up, that you would like our listeners to begin to maybe implement or practice use in their daily lives to feel healthier, more balanced, more and by balanced I mean more in alignment with their mind, their body, their heart, their spirit, to connect that relationship within
Sure,
themselves.
sure. Just close your eyes and listen. That's what we just just have
Yeah.
to sit down, close our eyes and listen. What do you feel? Do a body scan. What do you feel in your toes, your feet? Is everything moving? And I work with a lot of people on just the basics again, in a sense of then open your heart, stand up tall, and just conquer the world.
Yeah.
Right? Just feel that, yes, I can. Yes, I got this. Yes, I can do it. It is just a way of throwing yourself in there, taking action and feeling that. But we have to sit and listen when we want to feel our body and listen to it and listen to what it tells us. That's a difficult thing. We're just not trained at it. And then I can wrap up with that because I know we've been talking for a long time. The mindfulness now is something that we have to learn, which has to do with that find and feel. Right? We have to learn to be mindful. We used to be mindful 50, 60, 100 years ago because we just sat outside without a phone, talking and staring. Right? You had
Yeah.
your coffee on the
Yeah.
porch and you stare over the wide prairie. And back to
We
the
used all of our
days.
senses, right? We
Yes,
would feel the wind on our
yes,
face. We would see, we would listen. Yeah,
yeah,
smell. Oh my gosh. I'm walking through fields of wildflowers here in the Midwest and just in heaven because of the
yes,
glorious fragrance. Yeah.
yes. It's so important that we just teach yourself to do so again, just like you said. Walk, sit somewhere, feel it, listen to it, incorporate your body in it, where am I? That kind of thing. Because we're just inundated with information the whole day. We can't help it. It's not our fault. It's
No.
just,
Mm-mm.
I'm just constantly checking my phone, like what's going on. And
Yeah.
that kind of thing is just taking us out of that awareness, mental state of awareness. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have access to peacefulness within us. It's our five senses. So don't forget to use them on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis.
Absolutely.
Elian, this has been, I could, you did say I could talk on this for hours, and I feel like the time has flown by. I'm looking down going, oh boy, we better
I
start
know.
wrapping this
Right.
up because and what a delightful, peaceful spirit you have. I feel just calm and just in a joyful space chatting with you and talking about this. So bringing awareness to our bodies and our mind. And yeah, I'm feeling integrated just through this conversation with you. So I hope we get lots of listeners who can take advantage of this experience and your presence.
I
Uh,
feel I'm all over the place, but I'm just so happy to be here.
Where do folks find you? How do they listen to your show, Elian's Joy? You have a show on the Win-Win Women Network as well. And so how do folks find you and how do they tune into your show?
Yeah, I'm easy to find. All of the links are just, you're able to find me on alienhaan.net. That's it.
Okay.
alienhaan.net, www.alienhaan.net. And then on my website, there's ways to connect with me. Just make an appointment. There is a gift, 10 tips for anxiety. There's a little gift there that you can find. I have newsletters going out all the time. All my social media links are through my website. So that's the easy thing, it's just all there. And you can find the show, you can find the book, the whole bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Please
Yes.
reach out.
And
Absolutely.
and of course, we'll put all that information in the show notes for this, both on my YouTube channel and then in the show notes. So feel free to look there. If you can't find it for whatever reason, reach out to me and I will make a direct connection. I will make an introduction for you. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being with us because this month we are diving deep all month into vitality. What does that look like for your mind, your body, your spirit? How do we integrate it all? So come on back next week. And of course, I am an entrepreneur advisor. If you do need a bit of advice to expand your brand online using social media, I would love to have a conversation with you. And you can pop over to my website. That's Lisa Mosby, Mosbey, lisamosby.com, and book 30 minutes. We'll take a look at what you're doing for your social media and see if I can't help you out with that. All right, everybody, come on back next week. Thanks so much. Bye.